for 17 hours. The pre-dawn silence over eastern Ukraine was shattered, not by artillery, not by tanks, but by the deep, rapid growl of two-stroke engines. Through the morning mist, a column of motorbikes emerged, headlights dimmed, tires kicking up ribbons of mud. Overhead, the almost imperceptible hum of quadcopters traced circles in the sky. The Russian forward outpost, barely 2 kilometers ahead, was still waking up. But Ukraine's strike teams were already there. What happened next would be studied by military strategists for decades. You're watching Naval Edge, Strategy, Firepower, History. From historic sea battles to modern hybrid warfare, we bring you the stories where tactics and technology decide the fate of nations. Eastern Ukraine, mid-2024. The front line here is neither static nor predictable, a jagged, shifting corridor of villages, tree lines, and industrial ruins stretching across Donetsk and Luhansk. Russia's forces have dug in over months, building layered defenses, minefields, entrenched infantry, and artillery zones. But Ukrainian commanders have grown adept at finding cracks in that armor. The objective of this mission is surgical but ambitious: to eliminate a Russian electronic warfare unit disrupting Ukrainian drone operations in the sector. Intelligence sources have pinpointed the target to a modest-looking farm compound near the Seversky, Donetsk River, but appearances were deceiving. Beneath the barns and hay bales lay racks of signal-jamming equipment, guarded by infantry and light armor. A frontal assault would be suicide. Artillery risked destroying the valuable intel and hardware. So, planners in Kyiv authorized something different: a rapid motorbike insertion supported by swarm drones, striking before dawn, hitting hard, and vanishing before Russian reinforcements could arrive. It was a gamble, but if successful, it would reopen the skies for Ukraine's own drone reconnaissance and strike missions across the entire Eastern Front. 2 days before the mission, Ukrainian reconnaissance teams began noticing subtle changes in the electronic landscape. Drone operators reported intermittent interference, not enough to knock them out of the sky, but enough to blur video feeds and cause momentary loss of control. Signals intelligence analysts picked up a new pattern: a pulsing broadband noise sweeping across multiple frequencies. It wasn't random static. It was deliberate. And it wasn't coming from the main Russian command post. It was localized. Tactical jamming almost certainly operated from a forward-deployed EW unit. That same day, a patrol reported a column of Russian supply trucks moving into the sector under cover of darkness. Their destination: the small agricultural hamlet of Mikhailsky, just north of the Ukrainian forward line. What puzzled Ukrainian scouts was that this hamlet had little strategic value, except for its proximity to a high ridge with direct line of sight to Ukrainian drone corridors. By evening, drone footage confirmed unusual activity: fresh sandbag positions, new camouflage netting over several buildings, and most tellingly, 2 truck-mounted antennas that hadn't been there the day before. The evidence was stacking up. But so was the risk. Russian forces in the area numbered at least a reinforced platoon, maybe 40 to 50 men, and several BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles. And this was no ordinary outpost. If it truly was an EW hub, then attacking it would mean punching right into a nerve center. Back at the Ukrainian forward base, the chatter in the planning room shifted from if to how. The decision was made. The strike will go ahead using the fastest, most unpredictable assault method available: the motorbike raiding teams. The clock was now ticking. Every hour the EU unit stayed operational was another hour Ukrainian drones stayed blind. By 0400 hours, the weather had shifted. A low mist hugged the ground, swallowing the ridgelines and muting sound. For the Ukrainian raiding party, it was the perfect veil. For the Russian garrison, it was a creeping blindfold. On the tactical operations net, the call signs came alive. Alpha 1 to command, bikes moving. Noise discipline enforced. 0 lights. Copy, Alpha 1. You are green. Confirm when phase line Viper is crossed. The motorbike teams, 10 riders split into 2 assault elements, roared quietly to life in the darkness. Their weapons were slung tight, a mix of suppressed AK-74Ms, underbarrel GP-25 grenade launchers, and single-use NLAW and Panzerfaust 3.2s lashed to the sides. The lead bikes carried DJI Mavic 3T drones, rigged with improvised grenade drops. In the skies overhead, a TB2 Bayraktar loitered just outside jamming range, relaying intermittent optical data back to the ops center. The feed was grainy, but the shapes of the Russian BMPs were visible, parked nose out in a defensive semicircle around the hamlet. By 0435, the first signs of Russian alertness emerged. Through intercepted VHF chatter, the Ukrainian SIGINT team caught fragments of a tense exchange. Unit 3, confirmed movement on South Ridge. Negative, weight thermal shows heat spikes. Could be animals. Keep watching. Tell EW to increase sweep rate. The jamming pattern changed within minutes. Instead of the slow pulse, it shifted to a rapid frequency hopping blanket. Designed to disrupt drone command signals more aggressively, the Russian EW operators had something. Then came the unmistakable sound, faint at first, then growing. Rotor blades. A Russian Orlan-10 reconnaissance drone had launched from a nearby tree line. If it spotted the inbound bikes, surprise would be lost. The Ukrainian lead rider, call sign Falcon, pulled his bike into the cover of a small gully. He keyed his throat mic. Eagle 2 Orlan's airborne. Recommend counter-drone now. From a hidden position 2 kilometers away, a Ukrainian Manpads operator popped the cap off a 9K38 Igla. He steadied, tracked the low silhouette against the pre-dawn haze, and fired. The streak of burning propellant lit the fog for a brief second, then a muffled hum. The Orlan spiraled down in flames, vanishing behind the ridge. The Russian base erupted in confusion. Voices shouted over open comms. Orders barked. BMP engines caught to life. The window for stealth was closing. The raiding team had to commit now, or lose the element of surprise forever. All alphas, execute, execute. The raid had begun. The command to execute hit like an electric current. Falcon twisted the throttle, and the motorbike screamed forward, suspension bouncing over frozen clods. Behind him, 9 more riders fanned out, each taking staggered positions to avoid being easy targets for machine gun bursts. The icy air bit through their balaclavas, but adrenaline burned hotter than the cold. Overhead, the TB2 shifted into an attack posture. Its nose camera locked on the largest target, a Russian BMP-2 warming its diesel engine. The operator, hundreds of kilometers away, armed in MAM-L smart munition and guided it in. On the Ukrainian drone feed, the final seconds showed the BMP commander just stepping onto the hatch. Then a bloom of orange fire and black smoke swallowed him. On the ground, the bikers had 40 seconds before the Russians regrouped. Falcon's rear passenger, call sign Wolf, swung his NLA tube forward, braced against the frame of the bike. He thumbed the trigger. The rocket whooshed past Falcon's head and slammed into a parked Euro transport truck. Ammunition stored in the truck ignited, sending tracers skyward like angry fireflies. From the Russian side came the unmistakable rip of a PKM machine gun. Tracers slashed low across the field, forcing 2 bikers to swerve. One rider, call sign Ghost, took cover behind a collapsed farmhouse wall, yanking the pin from an RGO-78 grenade and hurling it through a window where muzzle flashes danced. The explosion inside cut the gunfire short. The drone teams now entered Phase 2. 3 Mavic 3T units, already airborne, darted forward, flying nap of the earth to evade detection. Each carried twin 3D printed release clamps, gripping modified RKG-3 anti-tank grenades. The drone pilots positioned on a ridge with clear loss banked hard around the village. S western side and began precision drops, one grenade falling perfectly into the open hatch of a BMP, the other bouncing into a trench line. Russian defensive fire intensified. AGS-17 automatic grenade launchers thumped from the tree line, their airburst rounds showering dirt and shrapnel. The Ukrainians countered with a mix of suppressed sniper fire from Overwatch elements and aggressive push from the bikes, using sheer speed to outrun the targeting cycles. Falcon's voice cut through the comms. push north. Phase line Cobra in 90 seconds. The north side of the hamlet held the Russian command shack, a prefab container bristling with antennas. The moment it came into view, the TB2 released its second strike. The explosion flattened the shack, toppling antennas like matchsticks. With Russian comms disrupted, the defense began to fracture. BMPs reversed awkwardly, infantry moved without coordination, and pockets of resistance collapsed one by one. The Ukrainians didn't linger. The mission wasn't to hold, it was to hit, cripple, and vanish before heavier Russian QRF units arrived. By the 8-minute mark, the hamlet was an inferno of secondary explosions, smoke columns curling into the sunrise. The bikes regrouped at a dirt road exit point, throttles screaming as they disappeared into the mist. Behind them, Russian artillery finally began to bark, too late, firing into empty ground. The raid on the hamlet wasn't just chaos. It was a textbook example of hybrid warfare done right. What made it so effective? 3 core pillars: speed, coordination, and precision technology. In modern battlefields saturated with artillery and drones, the ability to move unpredictably is gold. Motorbikes are low signature. A Russian Orlan 10 drone has a harder time spotting a single bike than an APC low signature. A Russian Orlan 10 drone has a harder time spotting a single bike than an APC highly mobile. They can traverse mud, rubble, and narrow village lanes far faster than armored columns. Cheap and expendable. A destroyed bike is a setback, not $1 million loss. For Ukraine, bikes weren't just transport. They were part of the weapon system. The second rider could fire an NLAW or RPG while moving, effectively creating a mobile anti-armor team. The second rider could fire an NLAW or RPG while moving, effectively creating a mobile anti-armor team. In modern battlefields saturated with artillery and drones, the ability to move unpredictably is gold. Motorbikes are low signature. A Russian Orlan 10 drone has a harder time spotting a single bike than in a PC. Highly mobile. They can traverse mud, rubble, and narrow village lanes far faster than armored columns. Cheap and expendable. A destroyed bike is a setback, not $1 million loss. For Ukraine, bikes weren't just transport. They were part of the weapon system. The second rider could fire an NLAW or RPG while moving, effectively creating a mobile anti-armor team. The TB2, Mavic 3TS, and FPV kamikaze drones didn't just operate separately. They were woven into the assault timing. TB2 Bayraktar provided long-range overwatch and preemptive strikes against heavy armor. Mavic 3T thermal drones picked out Russian infantry positions hidden under camouflage netting. FPV drones with RKG-3 grenades delivered pinpoint destruction to trenches, dugouts, and open hatches. The key? Simultaneity. While Russians aimed at the bikes, drones were already overhead delivering precision hits. Targeting the prefab command shack early wasn't random. It was a deliberate center of gravity strike. By destroying Russian comms antennas in the opening minutes, the defenders were forced into local decision-making without central coordination. That breakdown meant BMP crews withdrew without orders. Grenadier teams fired sporadically instead of in volleys. No quick artillery response until the Ukrainians were gone. The mission was never to hold ground. It was a raid designed to cripple and vanish before Russian QRFS could react. Phase lines like Cobra weren't just names. They were GPS-tagged escape corridors. Multiple exfil routes ensured if one was blocked by artillery, the others remained open. Recon drones monitored approach roads for Russian reinforcements during the raid. The speed, noise, and unpredictability of motorbike raids aren't just tactically disruptive. They're mentally destabilizing. Russian soldiers reported over comms, intercepted by Ukraine, that the bikes were everywhere at once. Pair that with sudden overhead drone strikes, and defenders were under continuous sensory overload, sight, sound, and concussion shockwaves hitting all at once. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberately engineered symphony of speed and precision. designed to break the Russian defense before it even understood the shape of the attack. By the time the smoke cleared, the hamlet was lost, vehicles destroyed, COMMS down, and Ukraine's assault team was already kilometers away, preparing for the next hit. Ukrainian recon drones, still loitering high above, began compiling a rapid damage report to feed back to Kyiv. 2 BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicles destroyed, 1 abandoned, and later detonated by drone. 1 T-72B3 tank immobilized with a main gun hit from an NLAW, 6 trucks and supply vehicles burned out, including an ammunition carrier that exploded spectacularly when a fuel drum cooked off. Command shack leveled, with secondary explosions suggesting the loss of encrypted radios and stored mortar rounds. At least 25 confirmed Russian Kyiv, with unconfirmed numbers higher due to scattered positions. By 0640, Russian quick reaction forces from the nearest garrison were scrambling into their armored carriers. But with comms crippled and drones still shadowing them, their route to the village was slow and cautious. When they arrived, they found no Ukrainian troops, no usable heavy weapons, no intact ammunition stockpiles. What they did find were smoldering wrecks, half-collapsed buildings, and the unmistakable buzz of Ukrainian drones still tracking their every move. The dust had barely settled when the world began talking. Footage from helmet cams and drone feeds spread online within hours. The low growl of motorbike engines, the flash of RPG fire, the shudder of tanks erupting into flame. Ukraine had shown that even in the face of overwhelming armor and artillery, speed, creativity, and coordination could turn the tide. But here's the question for you. If you were in command that morning, would you have taken the same risk? Would you have sent your men roaring into the unknown on 2 wheels, relying on drones and split-second timing? Or would you have played it safe, waiting for a bigger, slower, more conventional push? Your answer matters, because history is shaped by the decisions we're brave enough to make. Subscribe to Naval Edge for more gripping war stories, tactical breakdowns, and untold moments from modern battlefields. Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us, would you have ordered the sunrise counterstrike? The war moves fast. We bring you the stories before they fade.